welcome to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema history and pick 5 of their films to analyze and understand why they are one of the greats. This is our wrap-up episode for Akira Kurosawa. We spent 5 episodes looking at Rashomon, Ikiru, Seven Samurai, High and Low, and Ron. Now we're going to discuss kind of what we've learned, the other films in his canon, and kind of what we think about Akira Kurosawa. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
And let's do this.
He sucks.
I disagree.
I went into this thinking he was the best director ever, and he is.
Yeah. I went in thinking he's up there, and I left going, I think he's the best director of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... I used to think that Stanley... I know, I'm cliche. I used to think that Stanley Kubrick was the greatest director of all time. And I still, in ways, think he did as far as scope, like in vision. But as far as framing a shot and playing the chess game of putting all the pieces in the appropriate areas, and they're both very similar because they both wrote a lot of their own scripts, or all of them. He made damn good movies. I mean, The guy doesn't have many duds. There's a couple that we didn't talk about during the movies because there's no reason to bring them up, but we both agree that Bad Sleep Well is not a very good movie.
Not a fan.
We both aren't big fans of Hidden Fortress, which I think is an unpopular opinion.
Yeah.
Because people seem to like that movie quite a bit.
And people watch it because they had George Lucas talk about being such a direct influence on Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of people watch it for the trivia, I think, more than they actually really like that movie.
Yeah, and... leave it to George Lucas to be inspired by one of the worst. That's a good point because that movie. There's nothing Star Wars about that movie at all. The only thing I find is obviously the R2-D2 and C-3PO references, and oddly, their characters in Hidden Fortress are more annoying than they are.
Yeah.
So
Lucas toned it down.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also not a huge fan of Sanjuro, but I need to watch it again.
Sanjuro's good. Yojimbo is, of course, great.
Very, very good.
So I think that sort of gets in the way of that. I like Sanjuro a bit. I know that a lot of people like it more than Yojimbo, and I don't know how many handlebar mustaches there are in that crowd. That's a hipster joke.
No, they're laughing.
They're laughing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not, but yeah.
It's weird to lead off with this. But that said, all those movies we just say that none of them are bad.
No,
they're just not as good. And when you compare to the masterworks he did and the ones that we didn't mention, because this is obviously prime for another.
Oh, sure.
Let's Take 5, and then maybe beyond, and which probably not. But what I'm saying is that he's made consistently that many great movies.
I mean, there are it's such an incredible different kinds of films. People kind of see him only as a samurai director, and he made amazing samurai films. Mm-hmm. Like we just said, Yojimbo, which was the major influence on A Fistful of Dollars, because it's that kind of, lone hero, doesn't really have a name, comes in and stops a corrupt town and then keeps walking.
Yeah.
It's amazing. The movie, we saw that also in theaters, and it was awesome. I forgot how funny it was.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Sanjuro goes into that more, I feel like.
Which is the sequel.
It's the sequel, yes. I feel like a lot more comedic. Or at least it attempts to be a lot more comedic. And Mifune's funny.
Mifune is funny.
Yeah, I mean, he's able to play it well. So there's that. And as far as the other ones that weren't in the top 5, the one that I definitely want to say is Kenji Musha. Kenji Musha, I think, is fantastic. It's one of the best critiques on power and how it's power as a notion and as a philosophy and as an idea of someone being in power or being in control. It's one of the biggest indictments of that there is. If Harry Carey, again, I know a Kobayashi film, if that is the indictment on samurai culture, I feel that as far as power is concerned,
it's also
the best.
It's also a fascinating movie because you get to watch a master play with a new toy. It's the first film in color.
Yeah.
And I've not seen it in many years, but there's also an incredible the dream sequence, right?
Yeah. That's, I think, referenced quite a bit. That's on it appears to be a soundstage. It's definitely a soundstage. It had been enormous though.
I just remember it looked like a painting. Yeah. It was amazing.
And that was what it was designed to do. So that's a great movie. Kenji Musha, you should check that out if you haven't. It's like I said, it won Venice So, somebody liked it. And it's weird. I think it's forgotten because Ron came out a few years later. So.
Yeah. And he was also very experimental in the film Dreams, which is a very strange movie. It's a collection of stories. Some of them are like horrifying post-war stories. Some of them are very kind of quiet, intimate stories. And one has Martin Scorsese playing Vincent Van Gogh. Yeah. And that's wonderful.
Why not?
And guess what? He has a New York accent.
So what about him, Austin, made you switch? Because I know Hitchcock is kind
of... Hitchcock is... They're both just directors who are so... They just appear effortless with the camera. That this is a medium that was designed for them. They knew how to tell a story in a visual way that couldn't be done any other way. It's incredible what Kurosawa was able to do, and not only in these 5 films, but in just different genres as well. We saw the modern film of Akira, which plays around with time as well. You have these giant epics of different perspectives of harsh justice in Rashomon, and triumph in Seven Samurai, and horrible regret in Ron. You get really personal stories like Redbeard, which is about a doctor. You get Stray Dog, which is about a policeman. He knew how to do so many different things, and each time it's like your first time watching a movie. Like, oh my god!
You can't help but being the best at it. Another thing that I want to say: a lot of his movies are obviously long. Now I know Rashomon's not, but he has a lot of long movies. But as far as pacing is concerned, well, the longest movie we watched was Seven Samurai.
Yeah.
And what is it? It's like 3 hours and 30 minutes, 3 hours and 40 minutes, something like that. It felt faster than any of them.
Yeah.
He's incredible of filling... there's constant progression. You constantly feel like you're moving forward. You always feel like the film is going somewhere. And it's always somewhere. And all the anecdotes have been interesting enough to where you need to see where it's going. Mm-hmm. And you constantly feel like you're being pulled towards something. And in the case of Ron, the case of Seven Samurai, it's more ominous. And in the case of High and Low, it's, more ominous.
Well, High and Low is interesting because that feels like the slowest movie, and it's kind of in the middle, time-wise for them. And it's partly because once you're past the initial kidnapping, you're with the procedural element, and you're kind of understanding how long it's been since it happened. Mm-hmm. Like, you're watching them... the best of the field working, around the clock to kind of figure out everything they need to do, but they could still only get it done in, I don't know, is it about a week? Is it 2 weeks?
I don't remember.
But you kind of feel the time, you feel like it has been a couple days since this happened, and no one's stalling, no one has their feet on their desk kind of thing, but it's all happening.
No one has their feet on their desk. I think what works so well about High and Low, in particular, kind of makes it different than the other films, is it's a film that starts off being about something completely different than what it ends up being. Mm-hmm. I said it was akin to sort of a Shakespeare first act, and I still sort of stand by that.
Yeah.
You learn about a Midsummer, the wedding at the first act, but that's not what it ends up being about. This, you learn out about how he's a big shoe guy, and if it were just a film about how he was a shoemaker that made women's shoes, and he was successful at that, and the sort of corporate espionage thing, which we went into in High and Low, which I'm not going to go into here, that would have been a great movie in its own right, but everything I just said, and then, oh wait, they just kidnapped his son, oh wait, they didn't just kidnap his son, they kidnapped the other guy's son.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. It just comes out with it. The way it just comes out with it, I thought was great.
It's a mastery of storytelling where he knows how to pace the film that you think you're watching.
Yes, that's a good point. That's exactly what I'm saying.
And a film that almost made the 5 that will easily make a 5 later down the road if we do them again. Throne of Blood is a fascinating movie, and that's a film that really also evokes horror in a way that I don't think I remember from any other films. It's creepy. It's only there's not 3 witches. It's just a creepy dude in the forest kind of thing.
Yeah, it's based off Macbeth.
Yeah, who's also clearly mystical. But those forest sequences are really unnerving.
Yeah, they're really innovative. They're really unnerving. Again, the pacing feels like it's constantly moving. Mifune is doing the crazy Mifune again, but he's still in control. So going back to my Rashomon comment, it's the only one where I think he went too far.
Right.
It has one of the greatest endings of his career. And actually, when I was younger, Throne of Blood was, I thought, his best film. Initially, probably. In fact, if you'd asked me, because I've recently been rediscovering, rewatching Kurosawa, if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I'd have told you Throne of Blood is his best movie. So yeah, that's a great movie. It's not even on here.
I know.
You can do it. I mean, you could just keep going with him. The guy made so many great movies, and it's just, oh my gosh, like, I envy someone who hasn't gotten a chance to see. And don't stop at Seven Samurai, or Ron. Really dive into him, because they're so good. They are so good.
I'm excited, because I've probably seen half of his movies. I'm excited to kind of watch the unknown films. Criterion has been doing a great job of getting just so many of them out there on smaller sets as well, that I just want to keep watching, because once I got hooked on Hitchcock, I watched every one of those suckers. I saw Under Capricorn. No one should watch that movie. That's awful. But it's Hitchcock, and it was still interesting.
Scorsese's Boxcar Bertha.
Yeah. Way better than Under Capricorn.
No. I get what you're saying. There's still some I would like to see, of course, too. But yeah, you really can't. There are a few people I could say, if you're getting into film, you want to watch a great director or a competent director made fantastic movies, might start with Kurosawa. The only thing I might say is also you better like foreign films.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the other thing. The other thing, too, is his use of exposition, which we mentioned in Seven Samurai, which I think is the best exposition ever. You don't even want it to end. Usually that's what you want to end.
Yeah.
The guy... All the characters are so interesting. All the plots are always so interesting. You just wanted to keep watching and watching and watching and watching. So much so that I was able to watch probably 12, 13 Kurosawa films in the matter of a month. Because he's just so good. I didn't need anything else to do. I was going to put Kurosawa on. Kurosawa was... Oh, he's so good.
He's amazing. And we talked about it at the beginning of this set. Are you able to... Have you reordered the 5 we've covered? Or?
Yeah, so if you listen to the last episode, Ron, I tried to pull it out of Austin during the Ron episode where I said, when this started, I listed my 5, what I thought were the 5 best Kurosawa films, in order of the ones we're covering.
Right.
And he said that Ron, he thought, was easily the best, which I went... Whoa, what? And Ron was my least favorite. Not easily my least favorite, but it was my least favorite of the 5 when we started this. So having rewatched all the films and then getting to see Ron in theaters in 4K restoration, how would you rate him now?
Well, it's interesting, because if you asked me 2 years ago, I would have easily said Ron is the best. And because I always loved all these films, and I had strong memories of all of them. But watching it again, I think with also some time passing, I still have a higher appreciation for Ikaru in particular. But my order would be Seven Samurai, Ikaru, Ron, Rashomon, High and Low.
Okay, so you've had 2 move above what you thought was easily your favorite.
Yeah.
I knew that Ikaru would change for you quite a bit. I think that Ikaru is his best film, I think. After watching all of these again, I would say Ikaru, Seven Samurai, Ron. So we're just flipping those 2 right now. And then I would go High and Low and Rashomon. Rashomon I would have at the end, but the thing of what makes Rashomon so great, and I mentioned this in the episode, is of all the films on here, though, I feel like Rashomon's probably the most important film. This film was so innovative. It basically brought foreign cinema to the United States. It was the second evolution of nonlinear storytelling. And it was the first camera to point at the sun, really. So Rashomon, I remember calling you after that, and I said that might be the most important film ever made. Yeah. And I still kind of stand by that. Again, Akira Kurosawa is so good.
It's 5th in your list.
It's 5th on my list of these 5. It would be lower if I had his whole...
I think I would only add in my top 5. I don't know where, but I think I would just add Throne of Blood into my top 5.
Well, Kenji Musha would be my 3rd favorite.
Yeah, and would you add Throne of Blood or Yojimbo into the 5?
Oh, geez. No.
No?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay. So you'd take out Rashomon for Kijimusha?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Rashomon would fall, and then High and Low would go to 5th.
Yeah.
That's the way I'd put it. High and Low could bore some people. I get that, because it is so police procedural, which we brought that up in the episode, but it's just so good at doing that.
Oh,
it's like
it's
hard
amazing.
I really do think it's that good, and it's again influentially good. I mean, that's how you should. If Law and Order would like that, it would be the greatest show ever made.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because now we have the Night Of on HBO, which is a police procedural kind of really 8 episodes. We're going to do one case. We're going to do every single clue kind of thing. And talking about more influence, they just announced today as we're recording this that The Magnificent Seven is going to open, I believe, the Toronto Film Festival, which is, of course, a remake of The Seven Samurai, which is, of course, was a remake of The Magnificent Seven.
It's a remake of a remake.
Yeah, of Seven Samurai. And Rashomon is going to be on every sitcom ever, the Rashomon episode.
It's hard, I think, to appreciate, particularly back then before the age of the internet and just, Hulu and Netflix and accessibility. Yeah. And I think it's really hard to appreciate the barriers, how good you had to be and how talented you had to be to break the wall of the West.
Yeah.
Particularly as a Japanese director post-World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, he was that good.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, obviously, I was not around in the 60s, but I've read a bit about how basically kind of once the production code...
The 50s for some of these.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, like, when the production code was kind of breaking down and Hollywood didn't have as much control over movie theaters as they used to, there became independent art house theaters. And the 3 directors I kind of always kept hearing about that were playing in these theaters and which got especially college-age kids really interested in that were Fellini, Bergman, and Kurosawa.
And those are 3 of the best.
Yeah. And 3 highly influential as well. Also, French cinema as well. But yeah, those 3 in particular. And Kurosawa is the most accessible of those?
Yes. Bergman is a bit too lofty.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to phrase it.
Yeah.
Kurosawa is nuanced and character driven in a way where Bergman dabbles more in philosophy.
Yes.
There's not a right or wrong answer to that.
No,
I prefer
no.
Kurosawa, but there was a time where I thought Bergman was the best director ever too.
No, when we ever do Ingmar Bergman, I might change my mind again because I've always had a strong affinity for him. But I'm also worried about that top 5 because back when I was watching them, I would take months breaks because they're so depressing.
Well, that's part of his problem too.
Yeah.
He may be a little one incredible note. And I know that people could immediately argue and say, well, Kurosawa did a lot of samurai films. And I said, well, actually, I would not call Rashomon a samurai film. It's a period piece. And on our list right here, we also have Ikaru and High and Low.
Right.
So,
and, I mean, Bergman has other things. He did make a straight-up comedy. He had some earlier kind of coming-of-age films.
Kurosawa did other things, too.
Yeah,
but what Bergman's famous for is...
the really...
depressing shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for lack of, aesthetic... whatever.
You all get it.
you all get that I'm flailing. So, that's how I would rank them, I think. I think that it's really hard to dethrone Kubrick for me. And I still think that Kubrick is, again, as far as vision, the way he pushed the envelope, I prefer him. But it's like thinking with my head versus thinking with my heart, or going with my heart, going with my gut. I hate saying going with my heart. I hate that. Going with my gut, and my gut is telling me Kurosawa is the best. Partly because I can watch any of his movies any day, and I don't feel that way about Kubrick. And there's just so many of them.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them. And it's not like you can argue them. Like, someone could watch Shining and get a completely different experience out of Shining than someone else. Someone could watch the film and say, that's the best horror movie I've ever seen. Someone could watch it and go, that's the biggest piece of trash I've ever seen. You're not going to get that with Kurosawa. These aren't divisive movies. They're great movies. That's just it, period, in the story.
I think you can, if you are for some reason on this episode now and still haven't considered watching one of these films, he's almost this seems condescending to the comparison, but I swear it isn't. He's a deeper Spielberg in many ways.
Yeah, okay.
They're both going for very, very entertaining films.
Poppy,
and they're going for entertainment in the greatest craftsmanship you'll ever see. You just happen to have Kurosawa just a bit more ambitious sometimes with his themes, but they're both two of the best filmmakers ever. So these are people who breathe cinema.
Yeah, Spielberg, and I was about to say Spielberg's too poppy, but I feel like that's just more of like a Facebook meme. Because, I mean, he has so many great movies that
absolutely.
are poppy too. He, like I was going to say, does he have an Ikaru? I'm like, yeah, no, he does.
Yeah.
I mean, so Kurosawa was. This is going to sound. So this is the thing. We had Billy Wilder before. We had Robert De Niro before. Kurosawa is the best person we've covered on the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. So. And I'm worried we now covered him too early.
Yeah.
And also, it's really cool because Criterion, I mentioned, has done such a great job of getting these out there in amazing conditions. 4 of the 5 films we covered are all on Hulu+. Mm-hmm. Ron is the one missing. They lost the rights to that one.
Yes.
But also, so many more of his films are on Hulu+.
Yeah.
You can watch a great number of them.
Including some ones the ones we didn't like that much, Hidden Fortress and Bad Sleep Well, so you can make your own opinions on that.
Still watch them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And let us know what you think.
We don't like them that much, saying we think they're like 3-star movies. It's just like compared to, well, Bad Sleep Well, probably a little lower than that, but they're just compared to the other ones,
I could watch Hidden Fortress right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that is the end of Akira Kurosawa. That was a fun 5 weeks. And now it's time for our next 5. It is my turn to pick, and I wanted to kind of go back towards acting. So we've done 2 directors in a row. Mm-hmm. And we have a modern actor, and we're going to cover Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, so I thought when we wanted to go back to acting, and I thought Cate Blanchett was a great pick, Austin, because I think that Cate Blanchett, she's notable for some of the leads that she's done. Mainly Elizabeth, I think, was the one that kicked off her career. I think we'd agree on that. But she's also one of the finer character actors or supporting actors in cinema today. I mean, think about some of the supporting roles she's played. I mean,
we're going to name a couple of them in a second.
Yeah, we are. So which movies?
Well, I want to say one thing about her. She's like, when I just think of Cate Blanchett, I just automatically think like she just brings authority to like every role. Like when she's on screen, she is just like an amazing presence always.
Yeah.
No matter who she's playing, she brought gravitas to Crystal Skull. Yeah. That was hard.
I forgot she was in that movie.
Yeah, she's Russian.
Yeah, I've tried to forget that movie.
Yeah, that Australian actress playing a Russian. Whatever.
Whatever. We will not be covering that.
No, we won't. We'll save a mention on the wrap up. But the 5 we're going to cover in the next 5 weeks are Elizabeth, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. We are going to do the extended edition.
Yes.
The Aviator, The Life Aquatic, and Carol.
Again, a great mix of supporting versus the leads.
And also just very different films and very different types of performances. It hurt me to leave a couple of them out there, especially Coffee and Cigarettes, I'm Not There, and a film I don't love, but she's amazing in it, Blue Jasmine, her second Oscar win.
Blue Jasmine's going to be the one I think people are going to wonder why. And the reality is just that neither Austin nor I liked the movie that much. So.
She's so good in it, in a bad script.
Well, and one day, if we're not going to cover Aronofsky on here, which is a shame because I really want to talk about The Fountain, but I love The Wrestler, which is an example, I think, of kind of what you're talking about. It's a movie where you recognize how incredible Mickey Rourke is in the film, and you don't like him, all that, but you don't like the movie.
I don't like the movie, yeah.
So that's kind of the issue running here, but which I think would fly, but the reality is neither of us like the movie all that much. So.
And it bums me out, but she deserved the Oscar.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but no, again, a great mix of what I think is her career. I think Lord of the Rings is, I'm just going to come out, I think that's the biggest stretch we're doing on the show as far as someone being in a film. She doesn't, in the extended edition, you hear her voice, but she's not going to show up in the film until 2 hours into it.
And yet, I think Cate Blanchett has come the first performance I think of.
Well, I don't know. I think of Elijah Wood before.
No, I'm saying of her career.
Oh, of her career, yeah.
Like Kate Blanchett, the first one was on my mind. One of them
I think
is.
you're talking about the first one, Lord of the Rings. I was like, well,
Kate Blanchett first. Then Billy Boyle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then Dominic Monaghan.
Yeah. Sean Bean.
Sean Bean. Yeah, those are the people. No, but, yeah, I mean, I still... listen, I'm not going to complain about watching Fellowship of the Ring again.
No.
And you shouldn't either.
I'm not.
No, I mean...
It is 4 hours long, but yeah, it's fine.
But, whatever. We're going to talk about it when we do it.
Absolutely.
I love that movie.
No, I adore it,
That was my
too.
favorite movie for a long time. It's not now, but God, I love Fellowship of the Ring.
I'm just saying, our next 5 should be just like short films. Just throwing that out there.
That's going to be a long podcast.
Yeah, it is. And that will be coming soon. You want to lead us out of here?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'll lead us out of here. If you want to find me, I review video games at Constant Diversion. That is our YouTube channel. If you want to email us at Let's Take 5, email us at Let's Take 5 at theartimmortal.com. The Art Immortals is The Art Immortal. The Immortals is a podcast that Austin does with a merry band of misfits, where they cover the 1001
movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows you must see before you die.
And that is really great. I've listened to it. It's a great show.
Thank you.
And if you want to reach out to us on Twitter, we're at The Immortals Pod. At The Immortals Pod, that's our Twitter handle. Did I leave anything out?
Leave a comment under the show at theartimmortal.com. There's a thread for each one of our episodes. Start a discussion about what you think of Akira Kurosawa or any of the films we've mentioned.
And of course, I left something out.
I forgot to put on the paper, so it's my fault.
And congratulations to Austin and I for sticking out.
We did it.
We did it. We made 15 episodes.
And the 16th, we're going to come out in 2 days when we cover Elizabeth on Friday.
Yay!
Foreshadowing.
All right. Well, that about wraps it up.
I'm Austin.
I'm Eric.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
And ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the 2 new kids on the block, Mr. George Lucas and Mr. Steven Spielberg.
This year, the Academy's Board of Governors has voted an honorary Academy Award to a man who many of us believe is our greatest living filmmaker, and all of us know is one of the few true visionaries ever to work in our medium. Akira Kurosawa has made 27 films in his 47 years as a director, among them such indisputable classics as Rashomon, Akira, Throne of Blood, Seven Samurai, and Ran.
Someone once asked Mr. Kurosawa if his movies have a common theme. His answer was that they ask a common question. Why can't people be happier together? He has put that question in contemporary terms and in films of epic historical sweep, but always answered it in a way that intensifies and finally transforms our shared human reality into a thing of awesome and often tragic beauty.